another edition of In Focus. This, of course, is a special edition. I'm your host, Karim Ahmed. Interesting day. The executive director, Mrs. Evelyn Henville, has just completed a tour of the Alexander Hamilton Museum and Trot House, which houses the Alexander Hamilton collection, with, and make sure I get this correct, LEONARD ZAX, who's president of the Hamilton Partnership for Paterson. Welcome.
I'm absolutely delighted to be here.
Everyone knows that I'm slow of learning, so do forgive me if I go right back to the beginning. All right? Hamilton Partnership. Hamilton belongs to us. How did you get him?
Well, we're going to partner with you.
You are?
It's a partnership, so we're going to work together.
Okay. So tell me about this Hamilton Partnership for Paterson.
Well, the idea that we had in Paterson was that we thought it would be possible to create a new national park in the United States. A national park that would exist forever. Our national parks are permanent. That would combine some spectacular natural wonder. We have a spectacular waterfall there. And history. And it was because of this spectacular waterfall, 12 miles west of Manhattan, in northern New Jersey, that our first Secretary of the Treasury, our first Minister of the Treasury, your native son, Alexander Hamilton, decided that he would create and plan a new city that would harness the power of rushing waters because of this waterfall and channel those rushing waters through canals to many factory sites. And he felt at a time that there was no manufacturing in the United States at all.
So this was the time of the Industrial Revolution?
No, it was before there was any industry of any kind in the United States. His concern was that 15 years after America declared its independence from Britain, even though it won the Revolutionary War, Hamilton believed that America would never be free. What we won was only political independence. What we needed was not only political independence, but economic independence. And he decided the way to do that is to make in the United States everything we needed. Because 15 years after the Declaration, the United States was still importing everything: clothing, shoes, military supplies from England. And he felt the United States would forever be at the mercy of England and foreign powers.
But I hear and I understand what you were saying about, this dependence on Britain supplying you clothing and so forth, even military, right? But the fact of the matter is that at that time, England controlled 75% of the world. So there was nothing unusual about America depending on the Britain, really, was there?
Well, there was one thing unusual, and that is America had just won a bitter, hard-fought war, defeating the most powerful army, the most powerful navy, the most powerful nation on the planet. And it was close. It was close. It might have gone the other way. Hamilton's concern was there will be another war, probably with England sometime, and 20 years later there was. And he felt that it was essential to win the next war and to forever be independent, that in addition to political independence, America needed economic independence. America needed to manufacture everything Americans needed, especially military supplies.
So here we have the son of NEVIS, Alexander Hamilton, protecting, not in actual fact, not just protecting the United States of America, but being a visionary, looking ahead and saying, this is possible and we need to be ready. This is possible and we need to be prepared. How did Alexander Hamilton come to you in Paterson?
he was our first Minister of the Treasury. Our first president, George Washington, who had been the general who commanded our troops in the Revolutionary War, also was concerned that our troops didn't have clothing, our troops didn't have the shoes, our troops didn't have the proper military supplies, and he didn't want that to happen either. So in this instance, he actually was very supportive of what Hamilton was trying to do. There were other American political leaders who had a different view. They said, no, we don't want these dirty industries that are starting in England. We see these cities that are getting very, very, very sloppy and dirty, and there's something unseemly about them. We like the idea of having a rural agrarian society, plantations, slavery. There were some American leaders who felt that way.
Right. Now, let's talk about Paterson. How is it that this city, founded by Hamilton, is called Paterson? Or why is it not called Hamilton?
Well, Hamilton cared about doing things, but did not care about self-aggrandizement. His ego, not that he was shy or retiring, but his ego did not really demand putting his name on every building or place. He wanted to name it Paterson not only because he didn't care about it being named after him, and there were many people who wanted to name it after him. He also wanted to really thank the governor of New Jersey at the time, whose full support was necessary for legislation that Hamilton drafted to create what was one of the first corporations in the United States.
He was playing politics.
Yes, he was
being shrewd.
He was being very politic. William Paterson, the governor at the time, was someone whom Hamilton knew well. They were both brilliant lawyers. They were very, very strong personal and professional relationship. But I think Hamilton felt it would be a little bit better if we had William Paterson's name on it, because then he'll really fight hard to get it through the legislature.
So he was looking for support for his legislation?
Yes.
Okay. Here's something else that kind of stuck in my head. Our motto here is country above self. When we gained independence, when St. Kitts and Nevis gained independence in 1983, country above self. And here is a son of our soil, son of Nevis, Alexander Hamilton, who, from what you're telling me, his whole kind of persona was obviously country or city above self.
Sure. That's why he fought in the Revolutionary War. That's why he fought very, very hard for the principles that he thought were important in establishing this new government. What kind of government should it be? He was really a major architect of our political system. He would become a major architect of our banking system, of our central bank, and he would become the architect also of our industrial policy.
Let me say that I'm very pleased that we are here celebrating his birth, and that we can bring to the attention of all persons, Americans, non-Americans, Nevisians, that he was born right here in Nevis. And in spite of the fact that he had so many negative experiences in his early life, he was able to make it to the very top. And it seems to me that one of his strengths was his ability to read. But more than that, to work hard, to observe, to see what's happening around him and to understand. It is my understanding that he became a lawyer. But I'm quite sure that it was because of his early experiences in business here on Nevis and in St. Croix that he was able to understand the workings of economy, the workings of business, and the workings of trade. And from learning from these small islands, he was able to apply what he learned to a bigger country, to a new country, and lay the foundation for the best economy in the world, the United States economy.
So tell me then about this city of Hamilton City called Paterson. What's it like?
Well, Hamilton started with a village with 10 houses and a spectacular waterfall. It was then the most powerful waterfall in all of the United States. The British were still claiming, and the treaty had not been signed, the area around Niagara Falls. So this was the most powerful waterfall. It was near New York. He saw an opportunity to grow a city that would be planned from the very, very beginning.
So there was some symbolism here in the waterfall. Yes.
And the water would be really the electricity of the time. That it would provide hydropower that would power the factory mills, that would produce the goods.
So those wheels, those water wheels, that
they turned.
Okay.
And Hamilton submitted a major report to Congress called the Report on Manufactures. You have some quotations from it right here, talking about the importance of industry. Mm-hmm. But he didn't just want to produce a treatise or a policy paper. He wanted to do something more than that. He wanted to show how it can be done.
So what sort of city is Paterson? Is it a city or a town?
It is a city today of 150,000 people.
150,000 people?
In this spot that Hamilton selected, which had 10 houses at the time. The city was founded by Hamilton in 1792.
So, manufacturing base. What's your unemployment and social activity and so forth there in Paterson?
It, of course, is varied with economic times a lot. Today, as the United States is in a post-industrial era, we are not making the goods that Paterson had made before.
I'm slow of learning. So post-industrial, what does that mean, post-industrial?
Well, you mentioned earlier the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
And the Industrial Revolution in the United States began in Paterson in 1792. That's when it really began. And it took a while. It was going very strong by 1812 and continually growing after that. And Paterson's population would grow to be well over 100,000 at the beginning of the 20th century. And this city that Hamilton founded to produce what we needed would become the city where all of the sailcloth for the American Navy was manufactured by 1830. Every ship in the Navy had sailcloth from a mill from Paterson.
Right.
A cousin of the man who had we call it the duck mill, which made this cotton duck sailcloth. His cousin would create the first successful repeating revolver, the Colt revolver. And so Hamilton's plan was, if you create we might say today, a business incubator. If you create a place that entrepreneurs can come who have ideas, not a lot of money, but a little bit of money and some ideas, and they're really, really willing to work hard, we can provide the hydropower and the real estate for the entrepreneurs. And the entrepreneurs came. He built it and they came.
So that's a very good saying, because they're saying now, if you build it, they will come. Right? That's that. But also, it seems to me that what I'm hearing from you is that Alexander Hamilton, in his vision, saw Paterson as being a place where you could lay the foundation for the United States of America. And that's what he set out to do in terms of manufacturing base, but not just in manufacturing, but to create the American dream, that entrepreneurial spirit. Right, so you're laying the foundations in terms the infrastructure in terms of power, housing, maybe even a little financial incentive, some
financial incentives, and religious freedom and opportunity,
and allow people,
and a society in which okay, you're not a descendant of the king, you're not a member of the royal family. Well, in England, that limits you. In the United States, that was actually a good thing. And he thought that immigrants coming to the United States through their diversity of talents, their diversity of experiences, would make America stronger, and at the same time allow the immigrants to build a better life for themselves
but
and
of
their
course,
families.
there's a central point in there, don't there? Is that you had to be American. That no matter whether you came from Germany or you came from Ireland because of the potato famine, or you came from Italy, or wherever you came, when you came to America, you became an American. So you may be an American German or American Italian, but you're American. And that Americanism is what fuels that drive in people to achieve, isn't it?
Well, I think that part of it is that, but part of it is a sense that to move one's life, to completely uproot oneself, one's family from where home was and move someplace that often, that people had never visited before, is a big decision. It's a really big decision. And when someone makes that decision, they're making that decision because they think it's going to be a better life for me and my family and my children and my grandchildren.
And freedom is important.
And I want to be an American because there's some things about the country I left behind that cause me to want to leave it behind. It's not that they're going to pretend that they're not from another country, but it's that in the context of America, in the context of a city like Paterson, there would be societies for all of the different immigrant groups. My grandparents who came from Russia and Poland at the beginning of the 20th century belonged to some of these immigrant societies. So it would be possible to maintain some identity of where you came from.
Sort of a sense of some dualism.
A sense of dualism, but in the end, a sense that yes, you're an American, it's better here than in Russia or Poland. There's better opportunity, there's better religious freedom, and there's going to be a better education, and we're going to build a better life.
And of course, Alexander Hamilton had first-hand knowledge and experience of that, having moved from NEVIS to St. Croix and so on and so forth. So none of that would have been, that would have been almost like part of his DNA.
It was part of his DNA, and of course, it on the one hand made him stronger, but there are some people who might have looked at his resume by the time that he left the islands and said, unwed mother, father abandons family, if he was the father, something that's in fact in doubt. Mother dies, brother dies, he's left in the care of a cousin who commits suicide, all by the age of 12 before he leaves the islands. That's remarkable because it might have been read by some people to be a recipe for a failed life. And it turned out to, I think, build a spirit and a character that would make him this enduring American figure representing perseverance.
And did he care, it seems like he cared more about others than he did about himself.
I think that that's true. He certainly could have made a lot more money in life. He wanted to serve in government. He would have made much more money had he started practicing law earlier. He was a brilliant lawyer. He could have worked in business. He was working in trade in St. Croix when he was 9, 10, 11 years old, learning the rudiments of business. There were lots of different things that he could have done that would have earned him more money. He had a sense of a higher calling. He had a sense of service. He had a sense of commitment to principles. And he chose to combine those talents in the United States at a formative period in the life of that then very young country.
Okay. So we wind the clock forward and we come to this beautiful concept of a national park. Why now? Why do you think Paterson, this city, founded on the ideals of Alexander Hamilton, based in his vision for a free, innovative, independent, strong America? Why do you need this now?
I think there's several reasons for that. One of them is really the enormous increase in attention that Hamilton has received in the United States through such exhibits as the New York Historical Society exhibit, whose panels you're fortunate to have here in NEVIS. That exhibit and two recent biographies of roughly the same time period really, I think, presented Hamilton in a different light. Presented him in a way that really showed how visionary his thoughts were in terms of the economy and in terms of the human condition, and really resonated with people in the United States in the 21st century. And so we have, in the United States, been blessed by some wonderful national parks. But there's a big problem with the national park system in the United States. And the problem is not just, oh, it would be nice to have more money, or we want to have more educational programs. There are many needs that could be met by money. But the biggest problem with the national park system, facing the national parks in the United States today, is that millions of Americans, tens of millions of Americans, perhaps hundreds of millions of Americans, feel little or no connection with our national park system. And here we have a wonderful opportunity to change that in a city that today has 150,000 people, roughly half from all over the Caribbean and Latin America, 1/3 African American, about 10% Arab American, many immigrants, many of Caribbean and African heritage, all living in this city founded by Hamilton, who said, we're going to do something that's going to create opportunities to immigrants, for immigrants who are going to strengthen the nation.
So, this may be a very simple question and off the cuff, but I've always wondered it. So let me ask you, how important would you say our son, the son of NEVIS, Alexander Hamilton, has been to the United States of America and continues to be, it seems, important to the United States of America? How important is this division to you?
The remarkable thing about this man, whose picture is on our $10 bill, but who never was President of the United States. The remarkable thing is that he accomplished more for America than most of the presidents of the United States in our history. And he did that notwithstanding the difficult childhood that he had here in the islands, notwithstanding the fact that he came to a society that was on the cusp of going to war, notwithstanding the fact that there were great political divisions in the new nation, and indeed in the nation today to some degree. But he was able to help create and play a leading role in creating an economic system and a political system that, for all of their faults, turns out to be the best in the world.
So far. I mean, would you say that Alexander Hamilton is a role model for overcoming diversity, and also at the same time a role model for the American dream, what is possible for an immigrant, for anyone, irrespective of their color, race, creed, or their background, to achieve greatness, or to build a good life in America?
We have on our website a wonderful hip-hop video biography of your son and my city's founder, performed for the Obama family at the White House. And I would encourage you to look at it, because there are kids in Paterson who sort of knew that Hamilton had something to do with the city. But they've now read more because of the national park, and they love this hip-hop video. And they say, wow, this is really remarkable, because if he could do this, I can do this. That is really inspiring.
So that brings us to the Obama catchphrase in his first election, we can.
Well, I think that the President of the United States believes that this is who we are, that it is in our DNA, that yes, there are problems, there are challenges, there are difficulties, there always are in life. The question is, how do you respond to them? How do you react to setbacks? How do you overcome them? And how do you persevere?
So the strong message coming from our son of the soil, Alexander Hamilton, is it's not important that you get knocked down. What's important is that you get up.
We will always remember that Alexander Hamilton himself, born into difficult circumstances and lacking a father to protect and provide him or provide for him more than 200 years ago, was similarly aided and assisted, as we've learned this afternoon, while still quite young, by members of the societies in which he lived, both here in St. Kitts and Nevis and in St. Croix, and also in North America. The extraordinary talents of Alexander Hamilton, the involvement of concerned individuals in his life, and his own hard work all enabled him to scale incredible heights, including his role in the 1776 founding of what is today the world's most powerful nation. And this, of course, makes his birthplace right here in Nevis of ever-increasing interest to persons not only in the United States of America, but persons all around the world.